Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how I do it, even if you don't care. And we're continuing our in-depth look into the forces of Eldar in Battlefleet Gothic with the Doom of the Eldar. This was a new article that introduced craft worlds into the Battlefleet Gothic game, where instead of playing a pirate fleet, you could play an Eldar craft world. One downside was you couldn't mix and match these ships because of the fleet registry, but if you wanted to play more of a craft worldy type of army instead of a pirate raiding, like if you decide to do the belly tan craft world and such, you can have your ships be belly tan if you want to do that type of thing. Now, I mean, as you can either be either or, because in the fleet listing here it mentions only these particular ships could be used, so you couldn't get away with adding pirate ships to it. You could probably do an alliance type of thing. Now, the ships were mostly focused around the Iaden craft world, but you could get away with using them for any ship, any craft world that you wanted. And some of the new armaments that they introduced was the Phantom Lance. The Phantom Lance basically, instead of being a Pulsar Lance which rolled 3 dice, can roll up to 3 hits, it only got 1 hit no matter what, but it functioned as normally like a lance is normal. It also introduced the Eldar Aspect Warrior Fighting Crews. What these did was they could be added to capital ships, and when a capital ship performed a boarding action, they got to roll a +2 for their attack, and on hit and run attacks they got to add a +1 to their dice roll. They also introduced the idea of ghost ships. Ghost ships were basically ships powered by spirit stones rather than crews, so basically think of it as a giant Wraith Lord powered by multiple spirits rather than just one. And any vessel in the Iaden fleet here, but again, you can use this for any fleet you want, may be converted to a ghost ship. Ghost ships use the following special rules. The ghost ship had a normal leadership. You rolled it as normal, and you got the you generated the +1 as per Eldar rules. Now, its special orders, though, because they're powered by spirit stones, which see the world in a different point of view, they had a little bit of problems with rolling special orders. If you failed the special order roll, the ship became inert and the ship couldn't function at all that turn. And on the downside also here is if the order was given on the enemy's turn, say a brace for impact order on the enemy's turn, then the Eldar were forced to not use that ship in their following turn, which wasn't really good. But one plus side was this didn't affect your living ships. So if your ghost ship failed a command check, your living ships you can move on to your living ships and continue on. When I say living, I mean they actually have live crews in them. They also had the special rule Deathless, which meant that instead of regular Eldar ships, which suffer a critical hit on a 4+, these ships suffer a critical hit on a 6+. They also had the special rule for being uncrewed, which meant they could not take Aspect Warrior Fighting Crews. They may not be armed with launch bays. They cannot launch boarding actions or hit and runs, and enemy vessels performing a boarding action or hit and run attack got a +1 to their dice roll. It also was that ghost ships only use half the normal number of dice when undertaking damage control in the end phase, and this was done before the blast marker halving, if appropriate, so they could get no dice at all for their rolling for damage control. On the upside, though, is it was a free upgrade to take, so it didn't cost you any points. In the fleet registry, the craft world introduced a couple of different rules, which replaced all the pirate ones. One was the admiral rule. Instead of a pirate prince, you could have one admiral, and if your fleet was worth over 750 points, you need to have the admiral. But the difference was the admiral only had a leadership of 9, or Supreme Admiral had a leadership of 10. It wasn't a +2 like the Prince, and unlike the Pirate Prince as well, the Admiral can only purchase 1 reroll. But you were also allowed to include up to 3 Far Spheres in your fleet, each of whom must be assigned to a ship and gives their vessel a reroll, which may be used on the ship, another ship in the same squadron, or an escort squadron within 15 centimeters. And they could have up to 1 dragon ship in the fleet for every 2 wraith ships included in your fleet. If your fleet was led by an admiral, you may include a single dragon ship as his flagship, which doesn't count towards the limitation. You could have up to any number of wraith ships and any number of escorts. Now on the fleet list here, it says any capital ship in the fleet may be upgraded to a ghost ship. So it's a little contradictory with the rules we were talking about before, at that stage of the game, I would say it would be you would have to work that out with the person you're playing with over what that is. And now what Eldar Craft Worlds got as their vessels was first the Eldar Dragon Ship. Dragon Ship was a cruiser with 6 hit points, speed 10, 20, and 25, turn special, shields, hollow fields, armor 5. So this was a little bit better in armament. It could actually play the close combat role a little bit better because it didn't suffer hits so easily. And granted, it still didn't do too well in close combat because of its shield situation, but you could be a little bit bolder with the Craft World vessels than you could with your Pirate Fleet vessels. And unlike Pirate Fleet vessels, the ships got to choose what their armament was, making them more a little bit versatile and allowing you to have different roles for your dragon ships than what you were normally allowed. You got 2 weapons to choose from, 2 weapons, and you had 2 choices between each weapon. Your POW weapon could be either a power weapon battery with 30 centimeter range with power 16 in the front arc, which is really nice, or a POW pulsar lance. That's the one that gets to roll the extra dice if it hits, at a range of 30 centimeters and strength 3 in the front arc, which is also really, really good. Its secondary weapon that it got to choose was either keel torpedoes that move 30 centimeters with a strength 6 in the front arc, which is really nice for torpedoes, that is, or launch bays with Nightwing fighters or Phoenix bombers with a strength 4 squadron, which is also really, really good. Now, your Nightwings function as Dark Stars and your Phoenix bombers functioned as Eagles, and for additional 10 points, if your dragon ship has launch bays, it could be given Vampire Raiders as well, which functions at assault boats with a speed of 25 centimeters, which is not bad at all. And then there was the Eldar Wraith ships. The Eldar Wraith ships were same stats, cruiser 6, speed 10, 20, 25, and 5 armor again, which is really, really nice. But it was only allowed to choose one weapon between its different it had 2 weapons again, and what it was is your first weapon choice for your POW was weapon batteries, which was strength 8 in the front that fired in the front arc at 30 centimeters. A pulsar lance that fired at 30 centimeters with strength 2 in the front arc. And your keel weapon could either be keel torpedoes, which have a range of 30 centimeters with a strength of 4, or launch bays with Night fighters and Nightwing fighters and Phoenix bombers with 2 squadrons. And that was basically it. And not bad, which really good for them. But between the 2 ships, I think both of them are function just as good, and they're definitely worth their points. And then they were given a new escort class, which was the Shadowhunter class escort. These function basically like any other general Eldar escort. Speed 1 hit point, speed 15, 20, 30 centimeters, armor 4, so no changes there. And now you got to choose one weapon for this thing. You could either give it a POW weapon battery, 30 centimeter range, firepower 3, front arc, or a Phantom Lance, just a plain regular lance with strength 1, range 30. And also, they had a special rule where they were a little bit more nimbler and able to hit tinier vessels easier. When they were using direct fire at ordnance, they always hit on a 4 rather than a 6 with other weaponry. And the number of dice is still calculated the same way. Lances, 1 point per strength, and weapon batteries use the gunnery table. And that was it for what they introduced with the Doom of the Eldar. All in all, Craft World fleets were really, really nice. If you're starting out in the game and you want to play Eldar, you'd probably be doing better off with a Craft World army because it functions a little bit more like your average army. It's the cruisers are a little harder to hit, and so that really benefits them. They still have that suffering where they're easily criticaled on, but again, it's a little bit harder to hit them, and they still have those shields, which are really awesome. The only difference is, they're still weak in close combat, but you can be a little bit bolder with them than your average ship. And they were very well armed, and it had limited capabilities, but endless possibilities of what kind of ships you could have in your fleet. And I'm running out of time now, so we'll continue this in our next video. So, until next time, this is Helios Raven, signing off.